Hi there, Jonathan here from Some Talented People, and today I shall be revealing my own mental health struggles and the abuses I did to myself as a result of them, and hopefully this will give you some insight as to my own perspective. All right. Okay, hi. I'm Jonathan. So it turns out I was adopted when I was 9 months old, and I didn't find out until last year that. So my mother and auntie always used to say, "You're a really good runner," when I was in primary school, and I didn't understand what that meant. And they said, "Your legs were like jelly when we got you home from the orphanage." And I thought, well, yeah, baby's legs are like jelly, but they're not supposed to be after 9 months, because you're supposed to bob them and they crawl around and all this stuff. And basically, what happened is that I'd not been picked up during those 9 months, and essentially, it created a world. So I live the majority of my time inside my head. The thing that everyone else calls everything is at best a sixth of my perceptual representations. But when I was researching for my book, and I found out that children that have sensory deprivation exhibit a number of behaviors. Each one of them was like reading me off a page. An addictive personality, taking risks with situations, so that I was incredibly reckless. And then in 1996, I had a motorcycle accident which cost me the use of my right arm and upper right body, which is completely paralyzed. It's called a brachial plexus, and the pain of that injury. So if you can imagine, toothache is one nerve exposed to the air. Every single nerve from my arm, my chest, my back, my shoulder was torn out of the spinal column. They couldn't find the other ends, and for a year and a half, even to touch the area with a sponge was just unbearably painful. And I was on doses. So there's the opioid crisis in America back in 1996. So if you go to the doctor these days and say, "I'm in really bad pain, I need some morphine," if they finally agree with you, which they won't, but if they finally agree with you, they'll give you a 10 milligram tablet of morphine. I've got a connection on here that's currently dealing with stage 4 bowel cancer. He's had part of, if not all of his bowel removed, and they give him 20 milligrams to take at night. In 1996, between 96 and 2002, I was taking there were two tablets called Oromorph. The pink tablet was 750 milligrams, and the blue tablet was 1250 milligrams, and I was taking a strip of each, one during the day and one to sleep. The pain was it still is that intense, but was so fresh and intense that I would literally do anything to get out of my head. So speed, amphetamines. I was mixing an ounce of amphetamines into a glass of orange juice. I had piles of cocaine. I was taking 30, 40 ecstasy tablets a weekend. I was drinking. I was smoking dope. I didn't do heroin. I didn't do anything with needles. And that was basically because when I was in hospital, they ran out of veins to put drips into me. So they had to stick them in between my toes. And that really hurt. So I kind of got an aversion to needles, which is, I guess, quite useful. But all of these prescribed drugs and all these illegal drugs I was doing, like you, Erin, working. And I was working in, I think the main difference between your experience and my experience is that I was working for a large corporate, and I was being assessed based on my interpersonal skills. So I'd hold it together during the week, and everyone thought, "Oh, he's doing well. He's smiley," because I knew that I had to fake it, basically. But then every Friday night I'd meet up with my friend, and I'd start talking about how the world was over and how we were all going to die, and it was all a pointless waste of time. And so unlike you, where you were unable to get out of bed, I got out of bed, but that wasn't really a choice. The pain was so intense that to lie still, it was that was then became the only influence I could recognize. And the only thing that changed me was that about 2002, I was sitting in the hospital orthotics department, and I saw an advert for hospital radio, which is a radio that goes on in the hospital. And I started volunteering for them, and I started volunteering for the kids ward. And there are children there. I don't know if you've heard of the injuries, or not injury, condition scoliosis, a bent back. So there were children there that were having that operation. They operate on them, and they strap them up in these really tight, constrictive braces. Children with cancers, children with limbs being cut off, children with I think it's fibromyalgia. It's basically a pain that encompasses the whole body. And I went from feeling sorry for myself and angry and rage-filled and all the things that allow you to conduct things you wouldn't otherwise. I suddenly turned that onto, holy shit, these kids didn't even contribute to their situation. I really better get a fucking look at myself, basically. And from that point on, I stopped the hard drugs because I was focusing on producing something for the children each weekend. And I was basically okay for a number of years. And then about 1996, 2006, I had a bunch of strokes. Actually, there's something in between that. I broke this wrist as well, so I can't feel the tips of my fingers. But then I had a bunch of strokes, 6 strokes. So technically I'm dead twice, and I shouldn't be alive now. And basically I was sitting in the jacuzzi at a gym I joined, because at the time and I couldn't speak, and I couldn't walk, and I kept on passing out. And I thought, right, I'm not going to die like this. If I'm going to die, then I'm going to die on my own terms. So I went to the gym to try and get stronger, started volunteering in primary schools, and the same sort of thing. The children have such a beautiful, bright energy that it makes you feel good. And then I designed a coaching program for children in primary school, but I did not understand at the time the difference between my brain working and what are called neurotypical brains. And after trying to do something for 7 years on my own, I was getting further and further away from the schooling system and becoming more and more depressed. And I started then doing these destructive behaviors. So I was drug driving, and not just being stoned the night before, I was going out with 10 spliffs pre-rolled to go out and drive. And I was driving in such a way, so I'm an advanced driver trained by the police for 20 years. I'm a gold standard advanced. What I do is go out, get stoned, and drive at 100 miles an hour across these little single track roads, because I'm not brave enough to kill myself, but if I should die accidentally, then that's fine. And ultimately it was as a result of being arrested for that I had the opportunity to look at myself again and change my habits. So I'm with you, Erin, in that, not in the mania, but in the depression that creeps up on you, and you find yourself with not many choices, or there are choices but you don't necessarily know them. I found myself like you in a position where, because I had no accountability, there was no one to say, stop doing this, John. Okay, thanks you for listening to that. I hope you found it useful, and we will be having more of these discussions with the survivors, because ultimately it is the stories of others that allows us to see our own perspective. So I think they're very useful, and I intend to keep on doing them. Thanks very much. You have a good day, and I'll speak to you again.